topic on long internet chat room threads where people exchange this eerie photograph and speculate about who or what killed Mr. A. Internet chat room threads where people exchange this eerie photograph and speculate about who or what killed Mr. A. In 2010, Sam Ballard was a 19-year-old living in Australia. He was a college student and a standout rugby player. His mother described him as being invincible. One night, Sam and his buddies were over a friend's house having what they called a red wine appreciation night, where they sarcastically pretend to be grown-ups by only drinking wine instead of beer. And after hours of drinking and joking around, they were standing in the backyard on the patio when they noticed a small slug crawling across the ground. At some point, one of the boys yelled out, "Hey, someone should eat that!" But no one was taking him seriously, and everyone just kind of joked about it. But Sam took it as a challenge and said, "You know what? I'll eat the slug." And everyone's like, "No way, you're not going to eat that slug." But them telling him he wasn't going to do it only egged him on. So he picked that slug up, threw it in his mouth, and he ate it. And the boys howled with laughter. They were so impressed, and for the rest of the night, he was the king. The next morning, when Sam got up, he noticed a dull ache in his legs. He attributed the pain to his hangover and expected it to clear by the evening. But by the end of the day, the fog of his hangover had gone away, but the pain in his legs had not. The following day, when he woke up, the pain was not only still there, it had intensified. And so he told his mother about it. Her first concern was that he could be developing multiple sclerosis, something his dad had. Sam was concerned about that too, but he also told her that he had eaten a slug, and he was concerned that, maybe this could be some sort of allergic reaction to that. And his mother said, "You know what, you got nothing to worry about with the slug. Nobody gets sick from things like that." So they went to the doctor, and multiple sclerosis was very quickly ruled out, which was a huge relief to the Ballards. But the doctor said they didn't really have a good reason for why Sam was experiencing this leg pain. Sam brought up the fact that he had eaten a slug, and even though his mom didn't think it was a big deal, he was wondering if maybe this could be an allergic reaction. And the doctor said that off the top of their head, they had no idea if the slug had anything to do with his leg pain. But a couple of days later, the doctor called Sam back and said they'd had a chance to do some research, and they spoke to their colleagues, and it looks like Sam had something called rat lungworm disease. This is an infection most commonly found in rats that's caused by a parasitic worm that can be passed down to snails and slugs if they eat the rat feces that contains the parasite's larva. Based on Sam's symptoms, which now included persistent dizziness and vomiting, the doctor informed him that most likely the slug he consumed at that party was a carrier of the parasite. The doctor informed the Ballards that most people who contract rat lungworm disease do so from eating undercooked or raw snails, and they recover without incident once the parasite dies. But in very rare cases, the parasite can penetrate the intestine, traverse the nervous system, and then burrow itself into the outer lining of the brain, causing patients to suffer from a very rare form of meningitis that can be deadly. Sam and his family were told there wasn't much anybody could do to help treat the symptoms, and so all they could really do was just wait to see how severe his case was going to be. Unfortunately, Sam's was extremely severe. Just a few days after his diagnosis, Sam did develop the rare form of meningitis and slipped into a coma for 420 days. When he finally woke up, he was paralyzed, he wasn't able to speak, and he couldn't eat without a feeding tube. He required care 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But the disease did not affect his mental faculties. He was just as sharp as ever. One of his best friends, Jimmy Calvin, who was there the night Sam ate the slug, said he went into Sam's room after he came out of his coma, and he told Sam how sorry he was that he didn't try to stop him from eating the slug. And although Sam couldn't speak or react in any way, he cried because clearly he had understood what Jimmy had told him. Sam was eventually released from the hospital in a motorized wheelchair 3 years after being admitted. He would only live another 5 years before the infection ended his life. Sam kept a copy of the Dr. Seuss book, Oh, the Places He'll Go, close to him over the 8 years following his diagnosis. The book was Dr. Seuss's final salute, offering encouragement to children as they deal with life's inevitable obstacles. Over the years, as he struggled with his severe disabilities, his friends and family would read from this book, willing him to make the best of the challenges he was facing. And as his friends and family said their final goodbye at his funeral, the book was read one last time. When Conrad Rowland was a little kid, he was always on the go. One time when he was at the grocery store with his mother, he leapt out of the cart and ran away from her, and she found him stuck inside of the freezer. After that incident, she literally made him wear bells on his shoes when they were out in public so she didn't lose track of them. But by the time Conrad was just 4 years old, he had discovered athletics. instead of putting his energy into running away from his mom, he focused it exclusively on baseball, basketball, soccer, and tennis. And by the time he was 11 years old, he was an exceptional all-around athlete. And at the time, his school announced they were going to have this special guest speaker at an assembly, and it turned out to be Hall of Fame baseball player Rod Carew. And Conrad was just blown away. He just could not believe he was in the presence of an actual professional athlete, let alone a guy that had achieved the success Rod Carew had. And so after this assembly, when he got home, it was all Conrad could talk about, was just how incredible Mr. Carew was, and how he, Conrad, was going to be a professional athlete just like Mr. Carew. For many kids, this would just be a phase. They'd be really invested in sports, and then their interest would go somewhere else, and they'd kind of forget about it, and it would not be their life calling anymore. But for Conrad, the impression Rod Carew left on him was so profound that he never wavered. He really did dedicate himself to becoming a professional athlete, and he would be successful, albeit in a different sport. He became a professional football player in the NFL. And in 2012, Conrad started nearly every game for the New York Jets at tight end. It was like his professional career was going off without a hitch. But in 2013, he injured his knee, which sidelined him for about 2 years, and even though he diligently rehabbed and got back to full strength, the teams were not really ready to take a flyer on him because they were worried that he was out of it. He continued to train extremely hard in hopes of landing a contract, but his playing career was starting to look good. During the 2016 offseason, Conrad was back home in California visiting his family. One night, as his mother, Mary, was making dinner, Conrad was sitting at the table filling out his driver's license renewal form. When he got to the section where it asked him if he wanted to be an organ donor, he stopped. He asked his mother, are you an organ donor? She would say, yeah, I am. So Conrad said, okay, then I will be too, and checked the box. And Mary remembers thinking, gosh, I really hope it never comes to that. A few months later, Conrad was working out in a local gym, getting ready for the next season, when he developed a sudden and severely painful headache. He tried to keep working out, but he just could not do it. So he stepped aside and he called his mom, and he told her that he felt this weird click in his head, and then he felt this blinding pain behind his left eye. His mother told him he needed to go to the hospital right away. And so that day, Conrad went over to the UCLA Medical Center, where they quickly diagnosed him with a brain aneurysm. A brain aneurysm is the bulging or ballooning of a blood vessel in the brain. If the aneurysm bursts, it's fatal about 50% of the time. For the people who survive a ruptured aneurysm, most likely they will suffer from significant neurological deficits. After his diagnosis, Conrad remained positive and assured his family he was going to kick this thing's butt. But on December 12th, just 4 days after he was admitted, Conrad's aneurysm burst and he never regained consciousness. Because Conrad was an organ donor, the doctors kept his body on life support, and they called the recipients at the top of the donor lists. One of them was a man in his 70s who a year earlier had suffered a massive heart attack and desperately needed a new heart. When he and his wife got the call, they were shaking and couldn't believe it. His life was about to be saved. They already lived right in Los Angeles, so they hopped in their car and they sped to the UCLA Medical Center, and shortly thereafter, news out of the operating room was the transplant had been a success. The man Conrad's heart had been saved was none other than baseball Hall of Famer Rod Carew, Conrad's childhood hero that had pushed him to become a professional athlete. At first, the families had no idea, but eventually this incredible link was discovered, and immediately the two families bonded. Today, because Conrad's family only lives 12 miles away from Rod Carew and his family, Conrad's mother was given a standing invitation by the Carews to stop by anytime she wanted to listen to her son's heart. So that's going to do it, guys. If you found the secret in today's video, let us know in the comments what it is and where you found it, so give us the timestamp. If you're the first to do that, we will pin you at the top of the comments section. If you enjoyed today's video and you haven't done this already, please get a job at the Like Button's favorite Starbucks just so you can give them a severely burnt coffee every morning. Also, please subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly 3 or 4 video uploads. If you want to get in touch with me, you can direct message me on Twitter or on Instagram. My username for both platforms is the same. It's JohnBallin416. I also have a ton of content over on TikTok where my username is Mr. Ballin. I also have a second YouTube channel called Mr. Ballin Shorts where I post short videos. If you have a story suggestion, please submit it to our subreddit just called Mr. Ballin. It's linked in the description below. So whether I see you on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Reddit, YouTube, or some combination, just know that I really appreciate your support, and until next time, that's going to do it. See you.
Since joining Cycle Fund, I've already earned over $20, and that's just from getting gas. I'm getting cash back every time I
By configuring your options, select the option strategy, and click the contract you are interested in. You can find more details and information and contract choice simultaneously. Third, choose either of the two modes to place an options order. Place order in the options chain. Second, you can place an options order on active trade. Active trade is the flexible trade option. The left is the option. Different from the classic trade, the active trade is more customizable. Let's get into user this trading view. Open the widgets menu and add active trade. You can customize it by resizing it on the page. Lastly, enable options trading in active trades. Let's place a using active trade. First, change the default contract number. Then, edit the trade button. Go to the active trade and add buttons. Then, just look at the options sheet and select the contracts to trade. Click Buy Bid. The contract will be placed immediately via the active trade. Enjoy using active trade on Windows Desktop, and be sure to check out our Learning Center for educational content and sometimes they draw frustrating conviction. Today we're going to look at 3 stories that demonstrate that. But before we get into those stories, if you're a fan of the strange and mysterious Hollywood stories like that, you've got the right channel. What we do, we upload videos 4 times a week. So that's of interest to you. The next time you arrive at a 4-way intersection at the same time with a light button, you might be allowed them to go. And they do. Subscribe to our channel for notifications. Let's get our weekly updates. Alright, let's get into today's topic. Paul Baxter's sick. Then he developed a wicked flu. Got so bad for a couple of days that he could barely speak. Coughing the entire time. So he went to the doctor, quickly diagnosed and put him on treatment. But after several months of being on his plan and not having his condition improved at all, his doctor ordered him to a respiratory clinic. There, they did an X-ray on Chad and they discovered a suspicious shadow in the upper right section of his skull. Doctors were concerned, especially given the fact that smoker, but before they just put him under the knife, cutting his back his lung, they decided they would take the probe, the camera on the end of it, and run it down into his lungs and actually have a look around inside. During the procedure, which Paul was waiting for, the doctor put the probe down into that shadow area of his lung. Right away, he saw it was a lung, but when he zoomed in with his camera on the lung itself, he saw there was something orange sticking out of it. So he told Paul there were little pincers at the end of the probe. He tried to pull up the tissue, try to see what this thing was, and if it was a foreign contact, he would try to pull it out. But when he tried to move around the tissue to get a better look, he couldn't get it dislodged. So he pulled the probe out, and he told Paul he would need to come back in a couple of days so he could get the probe. So Paul looked at the doctor and he's like, well, what is it? What is this orange thing inside of the lung? The doctor said, honestly, I have no idea. It's not supposed to be in there. A few days later, Paul went back in for this follow-up procedure, and the doctor, using this longer, more powerful probe, was able to go down and actually dislodge this orange thing inside of his lungs. And as soon as he pulled it free, the camera screen was watching in real time what this probe was seeing. And so Paul and the doctor and the other doctors that were in there as well all got to see for the first time what this thing was. It was this kind of triangular, small orange thing that nobody had seen before. And so as it was getting pulled up and out of his body, everyone was watching the camera wondering what this thing is. And then finally the pictures came out of his mouth, revealing what it was holding on to. And nobody could believe what they were looking at. What it was holding on to was a swallowed, or so he thought, a cone that looked an awful lot like this one, except he hadn't swallowed it, he had inhaled it. And then somehow, for 40 plus years, he had had no symptoms related to it until now when he developed a cough. Paul would say when he had this revelation in front of the doctors, there was a moment of silence and everybody just started cracking up laughing because none of the doctors had seen anything like it before and didn't really know how to react to it. And so Paul was allowed to keep the traffic cone, and after he left, his cough went away and he went back. From the time Gareth Williams was a young boy, when he was just 17 years old, he achieved a first-class honours mathematics degree from a university in Wales. A couple of years after that, he had a PhD at the University of Manchester, England. And after that, he accepted into a postgraduate course at one of the most prestigious universities in the world. But he wouldn't finish that degree because his incredible academic achievements had got the attention of British intelligence agencies. They began recruiting him. In 2001, when Gareth was 23, Britain's communication headquarters, commonly known as GCHQ, which is one of Britain's main intelligence agencies, offered him a job as a codebreaker. He eagerly accepted the job, dropped out of Cambridge, and then moved into a modest apartment in Cheltenham, which is the resort town about 88 miles away from London, where GCHQ is located. And there he would live and work for the next 10 years. Despite being an intensely private and shy person,